on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. Now, let's get into the recap. We kicked off the show with Renee Paquette backstage, speaking with Orange Cassidy and Jay White to hype up the main event. They were going to be teaming with Hangman Adam Page against the Death Riders. Jay White said he's focused on the AEW title, but first things first, he's going to rely on somebody he usually doesn't, like Orange Cassidy. Said they don't need Page, though. And then at this point, Page came in and said that Jon Moxley is his. More on that match later. We had pre-match promos from Darby Allin and Will Ospreay to hype up their Continental Classic matches. We then kicked off Dynamite with a women's match. The women's match opened up the show for once. Mercedes Moné defending the TBS Championship against Anna Jay. Footage was shown of Mercedes wrestling at the New Japan Pro Wrestling show over the weekend. And there was footage of Mercedes dancing with Mina Shirakawa. Mercedes slapped Anna Jay right off the bat, did the Three Amigos, but then went for the frog splash. Anna Jay avoided it. And then Anna Jay started to make her comeback. She hit a neck breaker from the second ropes. Mercedes was able to kick out of that. And then Anna applied the Queen Slayer. Mercedes though hit the arm of Anna Jay. And then Mercedes put on the statement maker submission. Anna Jay was able to escape that, but then Mercedes hit the moneymaker and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. I thought the match was fine. I know it's cool to hate on Mercedes Moné. I know Matthew doesn't like her. I know quite a few people don't like her. I thought the match was solid. Mercedes Moné picks up a nice win, retains the TBS Championship. Chris Statlander was watching, so we may get another match between them at some point. Then we had FTR cutting a promo from their home. They were jumped on AEW Collision this past week. And by the way, before I get to the rest of the segment, AEW Collision this coming Saturday night will be live, and it will be taking place at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while. I will be recapping AEW Collision live this Saturday right here on the No DQ YouTube channel. So make sure you guys tune in for that. It should be a fun atmosphere in New York, and they got several big matches set up, including Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. And we'll be talking about Ricochet here in just a moment. FTR talked about how they agree AEW needs some change, but they don't like how the Death Riders are doing things. They said that they will be cleared from their attack. They will be ready to fight the Death Riders on January 1st. AEW Dynamite Fight for the Fallen in Asheville, North Carolina, their neck of the woods. And furthermore,
not even 350,000.
You have to wonder, who can they find that will give them the edge over the Death Riders? How will the Death Riders be able to cope with FTR having some backup? I guess we'll find out what happens. Fight for the Fallen, AEW Dynamite, January 1st. The first Dynamite that will also be simulcasted on the Max streaming service. MJF came to the ring for a promo. He was wearing his Hanukkah jacket. He made fun of the Washington, D.C. sports team. He talked about how Hanukkah is the best holiday of the season. He said Santa's not real, which led to a Santa chant from the fans. He had some sad music play as he revealed that he was doing a fundraiser, and then he showed a picture of Adam Cole. This was a photoshopped image of Adam Cole, skinny, very skinny, like obnoxiously skinny, with a very bad tan. And I thought this was funny because MJF was basically being an internet troll. Like, this is what fans on Twitter /X do. They make fun of Adam Cole for being a guy who looks like he's 100 pounds soaking wet. People body shaming him. So MJF does the body shaming. Now, the problem with this, I feel like people are probably cheering this instead of booing. They're like, well, he's right. MJF is right about Adam Cole. Adam Cole is very skinny. So I'm not sure if this accomplished what they were looking for, and that was to build some heat on MJF. He said he's going to put the small little yellow child out of his misery with all the proceeds. Even though he's doing a heel promo, I'm kind of like, I hope he does. Adam Cole appeared on the big screen. He had the Kingdom with him. And he said MJF is a dead man, and he will finish things off once and for all in World's End. But this was actually a setup. This was a smart babyface move because the video was pre-taped. Adam Cole popped up in the ring and attacked MJF, and MJF had to flee from Adam Cole. Segment was fine. I do agree that MJF has fallen off quite a bit, and he's out there like he's supposed to be a heel, but nobody's booing him. They did chant Santa, which was funny, but yeah, it was a good segment, but definitely a step down from some of MJF's peak segments. At least he's on TV now, as opposed to doing those promos from his home or whatever it was. Yeah, it is what it is. I don't really care much about the match, but they're trying to make something out of it. Segment was fine. I'm sure it'll be a good match. I'm hoping World's End will, in fact, be the end of it, and they'll move on to something else. We had footage of Julia Hart's official return from Collision, where she attacked Jamie Hayter, and we had a promo from Jamie. She called Julia Hart a coward, and she issued a challenge to Julia Hart for the Fight for the Fallen edition of Dynamite on January 1st. Looks like AEW is stacking up that show to be a big one. We had a video package. Kenny Omega is coming back soon. He's doing New Japan Pro Wrestling first, but he is set to come back to AEW in the near future. And I expect he'll be in the mix with Ospreay. He'll be in the mix with Okada. He'll be in the mix with Jon Moxley, perhaps. We'll see what happens. We had a tag team match. Christian Cage and Nicholas Wayne, his son, going up against Hook and the wrestler, Shibata. Shibata was able to avoid the kill switch attempt, and then Hook sent Christian over the top rope onto Christian's son. After the commercial break, Christian and Nicholas targeted Hook's bad arm, but then Shibata got a hot tag, started to build up some momentum. And then Hook gave Christian a suplex on the floor. Shibata was able to counter Wayne's World. He put a sleeper at Nick Wayne, but then Chris Sabian got on the apron, and Christian gouged the eyes of Shibata and then hit the kill switch, and Nicholas pinned Shibata to pick up the win. Christian, Nick Wayne with some dirty tactics, score the victory. Match was fine. Nothing great or anything, but it was decent. We had a vignette for Chris Jericho hyping up. He's hyping up that he's the king of New York, and he was actually in New York City, walking around Times Square, eating pizza, taking pictures with fans, hyping up his match with Matt Cardona for this Friday's final battle. I will say this was probably the best thing Jericho has done all year. Like, it wasn't the goofy, hey guys, learning tree. It was just being a cocky SOB walking around New York with his title on his shoulder. It was actually pretty decent. I thought it was fine, better than what he's been doing. We had a video package for Vito. Man, they're really trying to act like Bandito returning is a big deal. I'm not sure if that's going to amount to anything, but you know what? With Pentagon, Ray Phoenix seemingly never coming back to AEW, Bandito can fill that spot. You know, they can always use a couple of luchadors. So Bandito, he's going to get the big push now. We had a Mariah May promo, and she talked about how she has eclipsed everyone, and she brought up her upcoming match with Thunder Rosa at World's End, and she said if she was around 4 years ago, Thunder Rosa would not have even been hired by the company. We then had Tony Schiavone speaking to Ricochet. Ricochet's coming out there. He's acting a little bit arrogant, and before they could really talk about much of anything, the Hurt Syndicate showed up, and Ricochet asked him about his recent victory, and MVP asked about the business card. Ricochet pulled it out, MVP took it, and MVP ripped it up. Lashley grabbed Ricochet by the throat, and MVP said nobody likes a kiss ass, and then told him to leave, and that's what Ricochet did. So they basically rejected Ricochet. They think Ricochet is such a jabroni that he's not even worth being part of the group. I don't know what purpose this served. Like, Ricochet's acting heelish now, so why is he not in the group? I don't know. Maybe in real life, Bobby Lashley and MVP nixed it. They're like, you know what, this guy's too much of a jabroni. We're going to go with somebody else if we're going to add any more people to the group. I don't know what the deal is here, but man, Ricochet really did look low rent here, being rejected by the Hurt Syndicate. So he's like I guess a cowardly heel now. I don't know what they're going with here with the character. I'm definitely confused. We had Shelton Benjamin in a match with the Beast Mordos with MVP on commentary. Pretty solid match here, competitive back and forth between these two. Mordos, I feel like he's in the tournament to be the guy to not win much, but he did get in some offense, and he was able to sit up from a running power slam from Shelton Benjamin. He hit Benjamin with a headbutt, but then Benjamin caught him with a thrust kick. Benjamin took him to Suplex City, and then took him out with a couple of knee strikes, and then picked up the win with the Hurt Fall. I think that's the name of the finisher. Solid match, like I said. And then after the match, they continued the attack on Mordos, and that's when Danny Garcia showed up. Danny Garcia, he wanted to fight, and he had Mark Briscoe with him. They got in the ring, but it was 3-on-2. MVP broke the cane over Briscoe's back, and the good guys were laid out. And Shelton Benjamin held up the TNT Championship, so I guess that's going to be a future match at some point. Benjamin going for the TNT title. And then backstage, Ricochet cut another promo. Why do we have so much Ricochet talking? He's saying that he's not going to worry about the Hurt Syndicate. He's focused on the Continental Classic. He vowed to beat his old rival Will Ospreay, but then Swerve Strickland confronted him, and Swerve said that Ricochet is the same old Trevor, just a follower. All right then. I mean, yeah, Ricochet trying to be a tough guy here. This is not working. Him trying to be a heel. So far, I'm not feeling it. Like, I think they're trying to change things up with him, but yeah, he came off like a total goofball on this show. We had Toni Storm interviewed by RJ City, and the storyline with Toni Storm is that she has amnesia. She doesn't know that she was signed with Toni Storm. She thinks she just debuted with AEW. And she was asked all these questions. She talked about how she grew up loving wrestling and rock music, and she grinded her way to AEW. And when RJ City brought up Timeless, Toni said that's not her nickname. Her catchphrase is Tony Time. This is interesting. I have to say, I'm intrigued by this. One of the few characters in AEW that I've been invested in, and now they got Toni Storm, kind of being like Mick Foley a little bit. Like, she has these different personas. I like it. I think there's some potential with this, and I'm glad that they're not just dropping the Timeless gimmick, and they're doing a little bit of both. She can show up with different characters, and you never know what she's going to do. I mean, it's one of the few things on AEW TV that actually has some depth. So yeah, I thought this was a good segment. We then had Will Ospreay versus Darby Allin in a Continental Classic match. Crowd was really into this one. They were chanting "Holy shit" as both guys were in the corner, and this was a very fast-paced match. Some total non-stop action. Lots of quickness from both guys, countering each other. Darby taking one of his crazy bumps, going for the coffin drop off the top and then hitting the apron instead. Crazy stuff. I'm not sure how this guy's going to wrestle another 10 years. But it was a hell of a match. I have to say, this was probably the best Dynamite match that I've seen since Will Ospreay versus MJF several months ago. Really strong match. Could have been on a pay-per-view. It was awesome. It was a great match. Back and forth here. There were AEW chants. This is awesome chants. You had Ospreay hitting the hidden blade, and then he went for the Stormbreaker, but Darby was able to counter with the Code Red, and then Darby countered an Oz Cutter, hit a coffin drop. Ospreay kicked out of that, and then they were on the apron. Ospreay gave Darby Allin a Styles Clash off the apron to the floor. Darby, of course, somehow managed to beat the 10 count at 9. They always do that. It happens every single time. So Darby gets back in the ring, and Ospreay, despite his leg hurting, he was selling his leg, immediately went in with the Oz Cutter, but Darby kicked out, and then Darby countered the Stormbreaker with a Scorpion Death Drop, and then he came off the top with multiple coffin drops, and finally got the surprise win over Will Ospreay. Despite everything Ospreay did, Darby Allin came back and beat him. So I thought the match was great, and I'm not sure how I feel about Ospreay losing so much. Like, he really is their top star. When his music hit, you watch it, people were standing, and they don't do that for a lot of guys in AEW. He's one of their few guys where when his music hits, the place comes to their feet. They see him as a superstar. So I'm not sure how I feel about him losing as much as he has been. But on that note, what they're doing with the Continental Classic right now, you got, I think, 4 guys that have 6 points in that one league. So at this point, you really don't know who's going to win it. Now, on the other side, I think Kyle Fletcher has the lead. This could end up just being Ospreay versus Fletcher in the final. But yeah, they've made it a bit unpredictable, so that's a positive. And credit to Ospreay for putting over people, but he's their top guy. And it reminds me of when AEW started and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were putting over people. And I get where they were going with it, what they were trying to accomplish. But I feel like it kind of diminished their star power a little bit. They didn't want to be the EVPs and people say, oh, look, these guys are just putting themselves over. Like, they were legitimately the biggest stars. So I have mixed feelings about the top stars doing a lot of jobs. You really want to protect them and their star power. If it's Ospreay's idea, I'm happy that he is willing to do that, but at the same time, I think you gotta protect the star power a little bit too. He might end up winning the whole thing anyways. I mean, I could definitely see that happening where it's him and Fletcher at the end, and he beats Fletcher to win the tournament. Really, Ospreay should be going for Moxley and winning the world title. He's legitimately your biggest star. But yeah, great match, and I definitely recommend it if you did not see it. We had the Death Riders arrive for the main event. John Moxley, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta, Wheelie as Matthew puts it, versus Jay White, Orange Cassidy, and Hangman Adam Page. Pretty early on, there was some miscommunication between Jay White and Adam Page, so Page just walked out. And it was 3-on-2. You had Orange Cassidy and Jay White somehow managing to stay in the fight, and then eventually Adam Page returned. Adam Page went right after Moxley, but then Orange Cassidy got in the ring and hit the orange punch to Moxley, which Page was not happy about. He wanted to finish off Moxley. Remember, he said he wanted Moxley. And then it looked like he was maybe going for the buckshot lariat on Orange Cassidy, but he ended up hitting Wheeler Yuta. Then Jay White came in with a Blade Runner to Pac. However, Page and White were still arguing, and then Moxley took advantage of them, focused on each other. He rolled up Orange Cassidy and got the 1-2-3 victory to pick up some momentum. Good guys were too busy not being able to work together, and it cost them. Then after the match was over, the Death Rider surrounded the ring, and a fight broke out. Good guys did manage to fight off the Death Rider and the show. It was a good match, solid, build up. Having said that, I do not see a title change, but we'll talk about possible outcomes next week when we do our predictions. Probably the 26th, I'm thinking. And that was Dynamite. I thought it was a good show this week. Better than some of their recent efforts. I give it a solid B. I definitely recommend the Will Ospreay match with Darby Allin. We had some good promos on the show, good wrestling. Not a whole lot to complain about. World's End is shaping up to be what will be a really strong show. I still think there's some things they can work on, and hopefully they'll do that as we come into the new year. And like I said, this Saturday I will be recapping Collision for the first time in a while. I'm intrigued about the Hammerstein Ballroom. Should be a fun vibe. And they also have the Ring of Honor show on Friday, and then I think they're taping Dynamite for Christmas night, and they're taping that on Sunday, so spoilers will be up. And I will be doing Q&A on the channel in the near future, so make sure you guys stay tuned to No DQ's YouTube channel. The Q&A will likely be on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, but I haven't finalized it yet. Stay tuned to the No DQ social media accounts, and have a great holiday season. Stay safe out there to everybody. The next week and a half or so, there's not going to be a whole lot going up on the channel, but I am going to be doing the Q&A and recapping Collision. I'll be taking off for the tape shows, Raw and SmackDown, and probably Dynamite I'm going to be taking off next week for the tape shows. But that's one of the reasons why I thought, you know what, I'll recap Collision. They're doing it live at Hammerstein Ballroom. Why not? So a couple more streams coming up, and then we got predictions next week for World's End, and then the World's End pay-per-view, and then No DQ review before the end. So we do have some more stuff coming up on the channel. Subscribe, tell a friend, take care, everybody. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all.